So we're now ready to look into the topic of compositing. What does compositing mean? Essentially, compositing is the process of crafting a nice presentation image, mounting it onto a backdrop, making an image that can be mounted or put into a product presentation layout in InDesign, Illustrator, and so forth. So the first thing what we here want to do is we go to output, set this to 200, so we have 1200 by 1800 pixels. Rendering here, 64 we can keep, so it's a little bit faster. Or when we go with Eevee, now set it to 100 or so. See if it actually makes any difference. Our color management is all turned on and good. Okay, so let's do a rendering. And there it is. So this image we're going to save now. Let me here go back. So I have a folder inside my project called renderings. In there I put in all the renderings. And you see my first is called raw rendering. Or I could call this raw rendering start. We want to have RGBA and 8% color depth, that's all good, and PNG. Save. There we are. Cool. Now, let's go to Pixelmator. I use Pixelmator as a replacement or instead of Photoshop or Affinity Photo. I have them here too. Honestly, for what we're trying to do, to mix and layer images, Pixelmator is perfectly fine, cost around $29. Actually, Affinity Photo is also very cheap. It's around $45. And we know how much Photoshop actually costs to rent per month. In the end, they all do the same. They're like Pixelmator is like a pencil you buy at a gas station, and Photoshop is a pencil you rent at a fancy art store. But in the end, each is just a pencil. Okay, so with that put aside, there is now our rendering. Cool. So I called this layer here start. So I know this is actually how I started. And if I now show this with a white backdrop, for example, I can make a new layer, put this behind, go to fill color, make this white, fill the backdrop. Now everything looks a little bit different. For example, the gray of the plastic and the lighting. So you can experience this image now different. This simulates now the white of a page in a layouting program like Illustrator, InDesign, and so forth. So this rendering was good in Blender, but it doesn't turn out to be that good. So how can we make this better? Well, maybe one option is we increase the lights. So maybe 1.5 to make this stronger on purpose. 3. So giving really this good contrast. Let's do another rendering. There we are. Again, we will save this. And then we can call this stronger lights. So I also, via the name document, essentially what I'm doing. There's my stronger lights. Bring this in on top. Whoops, wrong tool. And snap this in place. Now we can just compare. Okay, no, that's pretty good. If this is maybe too strong, I could make this more transparent and blend it with the image below. You see, there's a lot of creativity we can do here. Instead of re-rendering different light values, we can blend between different, we could actually say exposures. Okay. So let's say this is so far nice, but the bottom is kind of boring. We want to have more reflection on it, like it's sitting on a white ground. But our final target is also that we would like to put these renderings on a packaging, including showing the bottom. So one trick would be to put a ground plane under it, but we can also do this. Shift-D, make a copy of a light, rotate it, and then move it around, and we play with the reflection effect on it. Yeah, maybe like this, or what that. Okay, let's do another rendering. Cool. Let's save it. And we could call this, if we want, stronger lights and bottom light, for example. So we chain actually the changes. There it is. Flop. Cool. Now compare. Oh yeah, that adds a little bit to it. Maybe a tick too much. Maybe the light is a tick too strong. So see a little bit less. Look how cool that we can blend this stuff in. Yeah. Okay. A photographer's dream, what we're doing here. So something else to improve. Oh yeah, here, this area, for example, is not good. I would like this to blend better. This will, by the way, create a problem when this is transparent. I will show you basically what this means. So this then also shows you the limit of this. But that's not really a limit, it's just simply things you need to keep in mind when working on this. So let's close this. Let's clean up our scene first. There's a new collection, and all this we throw into there. We call this one simply scene. And here, these three we put into interface. There's our internal light. Let's bring this one up and take a look at what we have. So the material for the light, the material for the plastic bottom, and then here is what mixes it together. When I move this further up, you can see how this gradient actually moves up. But then you noticed that color and reflectivity are very different. So this is actually very, very easy to fix. When I click this one, no, that's the incorrect material. Let's say, okay. Which one has it here? Slot 1, plastic interface, no. There, oh yeah, here. Now you see we have all these groups we added it to: the color, specular, roughness, and even bump. So back to the internal light, Shift A, group, plastic color. So that is normalized, so it's the same color now as the outside. Roughness, there, and specular, there. Whoa, you see that? Oh, cool. So we really set everything to be the same, and the nice thing is this illumination happens from the inside. So even this stuff on top is kind of like the same too. So besides the color we don't, but we can also use specular and roughness for here and make it exactly the same. Killer, no? Welcome to a mature professional material system. This is what the power of nodes bring you to. Nodes are, by the way, not unique to Blender. Literally every pro-grade program, even in film editing, in film compositing, they use nodes because it it's just a flow chart, like a mind map of commands. Very good. So, but I only want this little section to render, not the whole thing. I can go to View, yeah, View Regions, Render Region, and then draw a selection over here. In rendering, you will see, nope, in output, you will see that this is now turned on. When we do a render, hold on, and only that part got rendered. So this is also one part of compositing. We can simply compose even snapshots of an image. I'm slightly overdoing it here with the naming, so we could also just change the naming, but I'm kind of like having fun with this. And I'm trying to show you kind of like the semantic or the process. What I use here is just for me. You can call this XYZ. It's really up to you. Just make it useful, logical for you to understand. And there it is. Then I can snap this on top. Okay, and there we already have the problem. You see that there? That is because of this transparency. No, it's not. Hold on. Oh, this is not centered. Oh, why does this actually not snap as it should? Go over. Yeah, there we are. Okay, so this was at 80%. Let's see if we do see anything. No, actually, in this case, we do not see anything. Cool. Okay, so yeah, so when I slide this, you can see something here and at the bottom changes, but not in the mid area. So that's the reason why we actually are good. Otherwise, you might see, because this has an opacity change, maybe it changed right under where this image would be, like here. But in our case, yeah, this worked out. So to make it more easy and consistent, let's go back to 100. Okay, cool. Now, so I would say we explored the rendering pretty well. This is it's kind of like compositing Sudoku. We could even break this out more and more. If we want, we could render one with the left right, one with the right light, left side and the right side light, blend these things, but that's actually something we did in the past years, but because of EV and how fast we can render, that's actually a task we don't have to do anymore, fortunately. So it's kind of cool actually. Clear render region, so this is all good and safe. Very nice. So the last thing that's missing here is the drop shadow. There are two ways how we can do this. Let's say 2.1. Here's the old way. If you have a Wacom tablet or an iMac and an iPad and a pencil, we can then via Sidecar paint something under it. But it's kind of difficult to really know how this looks, and this is kind of terrible, so let's do that. That was the 0.1 version. Here is actually option real one. Copy and paste. There. We vertically flip it. Then we bring it down. Maybe to there. And right click, add a mask. Or in Photoshop, there's a mask icon, same in Affinity Photo. And now, obviously, when we want to put this onto your layout, this is going to be a sharp corner at the bottom. Not really good. So I select my mask. I go to gradient. I will use the black and white gradient and then draw my reflection. So craft it how reflective the thing is. Yeah, look at that. No, not too bad. Not necessarily 100% correct, but it gives the message across. We could still maybe see here with if we can add a little bit of a brush, maybe a little bit bigger. Edge is soft, very good. Oh, I removed that layer. Yeah, there. Now see, this is actually still fake, but a little bit better. And even this drop shadow I can fade with this. Okay, cool. What's option 2? We could go to here. Shift A, make a plane. This plane new we make specular rough. So it shows it there. This light actually is really annoying me. Okay, so there's the part. However, in sorry, with Eevee, this reflection does not look so good. So Shift A, reflection plane, there we are. G and Z, bring this up. Yeah, so we see this a little bit better. It's also interesting, you see how the rings here go. They follow it, and in here, the rings are the opposite. So a clear giveaway that this is actually fake. This reflection plane creates actually more precise or clear reflections, and it has to be above the object. And here select this and make this back white, and yeah, I can see there is something there. It just doesn't look very good. So in Eevee here, this is not really a good way. Let's take a look at cycles for the moment. So there we can see there's more going on there. So this is all good. Okay. Now we can do the following. Where is it? View, render region. Maybe do it this way. Very good. By the way, save. Render 30, open image denoise, all good. Adaptive sampling. Goodie. Let's do a quick rendering and see how the reflection works out. And there you see actually how soft that reflection is from that angle. And there's also this drop shadow, this airbrush. Okay, there we are. Not too bad. Actually, I'm going to save this one. I will call this one reflection ground cycled, and here I will turn this off, and while we go to Pixelmator, we'll just do a quick rendering. So where is this drop shadow? There. Bring this to there. Very good. Then we can bring this up. Okay. And this is actually below or behind it. Cool. Yeah, but what do we do with the rest here? And then this is actually not really wide. So, and this is not really trimmed out. So also here what we would need to do now is, so all this I will select and then delete. So it's gone now. Very good. Zuck. And a little bit of shoop, shoop, shoop. Oh, let's even this out. There, and then the same. Yeah. Yeah, there's actually now our ray traced drop shadow. We can also here add a mask. Same thing. Flop. There we have it. Or maybe a little bit, a little bit sharper. Honestly, all this is a little bit low. So here, let's move this all up. Then actually we have more space for us to work on. There. Cool. But I actually feel that maybe... Oh, everything... Wait. Oh yeah, makes sense that we see this. This is actually there. And as I said, now this is way too transparent. Way too opaque. There. This was an interesting observation, by the way, doing this rendering and seeing how much we would only see compared to what here in the first time actually I made. Cool. Okay, very good. I think we can go here with the ray traced version at the end. This is the good and clean one, physically correct one. Let's go to Blender. Zoom out a little bit. Then I'll also here, this one more trick I will show you now. How do we, for example, get rid of all the rest without doing too much photoshopping? So I will do simply call this do. Bring this in. There it is. Okay. Actually, hold on, I moved this one to there. What I'm going to do is all this here, I move back down so it all lines up actually with this new image I brought in here. Okay, so how can I cut out the background and keep this? Now I showed you, okay, well, we could select this and then draw all this stuff and cut it out, and that works. But another option is to see here I have this image and it has nothing around it. When I control click or Apple click on this or make a selection from the image, you see there's a selection around it. Click this, right click, make a layer, flop, it's cut out. And there's my drop shadow. Ta-da! So now we can compare actually rendered version versus Eevee version. Now we can see that with cycles, it adds actually, this stuff looks much, much better. But it also, the rendering took a little bit longer. Okay, very good. I will keep it at this. The only last thing to say about the compositing is important. You see here we have a line, and that was actually the background. There, you see that? We might not see it a lot here, but right there we can see the thing in the background. So that means, because it's transparent, this edge, yeah, has to go really above the object. But that is also why I really liked doing the rendering down here and then cutting the reflection out, and then the rest in Pixelmator I simply used the transparent background here and then just fill this back in with white, because then there you can you don't see that issue. Okay, very good. As some rendering strategies, I think this is now sufficient. This is all I wanted to show you, and good night.